everybody, welcome back to the channel. So in the last couple of months I did quite some mini arcade reviews, and I can tell you this was the one that I was really waiting for, because this thing sparkles my wicked mojo again. The previous model had quite some different issues, for example wiggly wicked joysticks, pretty damn poor emulation, horrible displays, and I'm very curious what will this mini Pandora's box arcade brings us. I did notice in the store that Pandora Box Mini comes in different colors, so you also need to double check when you're ordering it that you're going to get the right version. Alright, so let's do a little bit of an unboxing, but what I really like about this Pandora Mini, it's also more like a pluggable console. So I don't have any controllers here, but if you're looking at the controller that you can order, they're basically all the same if it comes to the Pandora Box DX, the order, let's say the game kits that you can buy. I already own the 2-player version with the wire, so as you can see we're having only one USB connection, and I'm also having the wireless version that comes with one dongle. So again, you have one dongle and 2 controllers that connect to them. So with the official Pandora store where I got these from are basically just knockoff PlayStation 2 controllers. I must say they feel pretty decent, but they are not like the Sony quality. But at the end, both of these controllers are pretty horrible if it comes to fighting games, and looks like will work fine, but the D-pad is pretty damn shitty on these things. So this is what the basic kit gets. We're going to get this very deluxe manual, because I'm not used to getting manuals like these, and there are a lot of good explanation what can you do with the system, how you need to connect them, and how all the basic functions work from the Pandora's box. Now, I must say they did a very nice job with the manual this time. Also, we're going to get a 12-volt basic 2-amp power supply, and there is no internal battery of the mini arcade, so that's I think the biggest downside to this machine. So no further ado, let's talk about the Pandora box itself, because the mini arcade machine is very different compared with all the other versions I've reviewed, like the IWO 9 Cheat 1000 and all the Power Kitty A9 and all the other mini versions. So the first thing that I did notice with this device that we're going to get a real arcade stick. And that is something that makes me very exciting, because all the previous models I already mentioned I had these very weird analog wiggle stick. It was not really a good experience. But with this version we are going to get an, let's say, a knockoff samurai joystick inside this machine that you can also replace. So that is also a very good thing. But of course I needed to test the game, and what I already noticed with, for example, a fighting game, all the moves come out instantly and I don't have any problems playing fighting games compared with the models I've reviewed before. So I'm very curious what kind of buttons are we going to get with this tiny machine. We're having the 6-button layout for fighting games, so sadly we're still missing out buttons for some PlayStation 1 games. And when touching them, they felt very strange, and I had first no idea what I were going to get. So I opened up the machine and realizing they made this custom PCB board that contains basically the same switches or mechanical switches that you are going to have with your keyboard. And this is something that I personally never seen before. But I can't understand why they are choosing the red switches, because they are not allowed like, for example, blue switches. It is a little bit of a problem that I've noticed that the buttons are very sensitive. For example, I barely touch them and they have selecting character for me in the game. So that's something that I find very annoying. It's possible maybe of the way how they, let's say, assembled the PCB inside the casing itself, and will give it, let's say, less travel at the end. This makes it a problem that makes the buttons very sensitive. But let's talk about the pause and the start button. With the pause button we're having a new feature with the Pandora Box DX that is not very common. Nowadays when you're pressing the pause button we are going to get this little menu. The menu gives us the possibility to go back to the main menu, but also we can use to make a save file. The only thing I did notice with this, as you can see, the save file works pretty easy. Okay, press the pause button again, choose load, press the A, and that's it, and it will load instant in your last progress. Keep in mind there is only one slot, and there's another downside to this. First of all, when you're grabbing, for example, a PlayStation game, the saving and loading takes for freaking ever, and that is something that is a little bit of a bummer. But sadly the quick load quick save is not supported 100% of all the games. Alright, so at the bottom of the Pandora Mini we are going to get these little rubbery feet that gives this thing a very nice grip. So that is something that's a very positive side. Also we're having the way to tighten up the ball if it's getting loose. or you need to replace your full joystick, you can easily reach it from the bottom. Just remove the little cap and you can replace them like a real arcade joystick. I did notice this little compartment over here. Maybe in the future you can have an option for add a battery, so you can have a portable machine. But so far I know it's only for supporting the PCB, because if you look at the inside you can see that this little piece of plastic is supporting the PCB of the buttons. Also on the bottom we're finding two, let's say, speaker holes. But when you take a close look inside, you only will find this tiny little version that is a 3 watt 8 ohm. But don't get me wrong, this thing goes pretty damn loud. So if you're looking at the connection, there are some little minor changes. For example, we don't have VGA out, but we're still having the on and off switch, the setting button, the input for the power supply, volume control by a little scrolling wheel, and of course we have an HDMI out. That works just fine, but I need to point out that you need to reboot your system if you want to, let's say, go from portable mode to using this thing like in game system. Combined with the controller I've shown you before, you basically have a plug and play Pandora's box that you can use on your lap like a mini arcade machine, and you can use it like in game system on your television. With this little mini machine we're going to get this basic old school LCD display 7-inch. But there's a little bit of a downside that the view angle is not the best I have seen. Sadly they didn't use an IPS display. When you sing in front of it, it will look just fine. As you can see, moving the camera, you can see the display itself is just colorful and will give you a good experience. But the view angle is a little bit bad compared, of course, with the IPS displays we are going to get sometimes in handhelds, for example. If the display gets broken, the question remains, how can you replace it? As you can see, it has been connected straight on the main board with a ribbon cable. And when you take a close look inside, the way how they added it, you can very easily replace it if needed, and it's just a basic 7-inch display that you can find on AliExpress. This device is running on Pandora DX because it's called Pandora DX Mini Arcade Machine. And funny thing is that it's exactly the same software like the full-size mainboards. Personally, I really prefer the Pandora Box DX software over many other ones like the 9D, for example. They improved many things. There is no alphabetic order, they still didn't do this, but we can find our games very easily. With a categorized system, you can search the games and all the features that I was missing in, for example, the Pandora Box 5. And navigating through the list is very easy. Pressing up and down, you go to the next game, the preview changes, and pressing left and right, you go to the next page very easily and very fast. So where is this mainboard running on? This thing is running on a quad core that is a Cortex A7. That is also having a GPU, a Mali 450 MP2. There's DDR3, 2 GB and USB 2.0. Sadly, this is not a typical mainboard, so it will be very hard to upgrade in the future. But with the introduction of the Pandora's Box DX, we having finally the option to play also 18-bit and 60-bit game, so we have more variation if it comes to emulating retro games. But I think it's sometimes a little bit annoying that the loading times can be very long for this new generation Pandora Box. That is something the competition doesn't have. And also we're having an auto fire option if you want to play and shoot 'em up. But I did notice that RWBlue was not running on the exact speed, and I did notice some big major drop downs in the FPS. But this game, like Kung Fu, works like a charm. On the other hand, as you can see, it's just really amazing playing fighting games with this joystick. All the moves come out instantly and it's just enjoy playing some beat 'em ups or fighting games with this little mean machine. I think it's safe to say that a lot of these main arcade games, Neo Geo, will run fine on this mini arcade machine. A PlayStation itself runs pretty good on this mini arcade, and many problems compared with the Pandora Box 6 have been fixed. For example, we can now just save the game. That was a big issue in the previous model. Let's take a close look at 16-bit here on the mini arcade. And I already did notice the problem with this game, for example. (16-bit) Super NES runs on this device, but I just wanted to show you that not every game runs perfectly. I just wanted to show you that not all the games run perfectly on the 16-bit era if it comes to Super NES, especially because I didn't notice many problems with the Sega Genesis. But as you can see, 16-bit is very well playable on this mini arcade. I already mentioned 8-bit is possible to play on the device, so let's try one out. I'm always saying there is always something they mess up, and they did big time with the mini arcade. Is this thing perfect? No, not at all. And I will tell you why this is. The 7-inch display is cool, but it is not an IPS, and I think that is a little bit of a bummer in my opinion. The loading time needs to be faster. If you're looking at the competition, they have more powerful boards. Sometimes they have a less powerful board, but the loading times are basically instant. The arcade emulation in general is pretty decent, but if you're looking at the consoles, I just picked out random games and I did notice some minor problems. And the same basically goes also for the arcade, so there is not a 100% support for basically every single game. I really like the passive cooling because there is no noise coming from the inside. But if this is enough, that is something we need to find out in the future. Besides that, the main board, the form factor is unique, so keep in mind upgrading this bad boy will be a little bit difficult. The games are on the SD card, so we can add games if you want to. The biggest improvement, you can say, that is the joystick that we're going to get with this mini arcade machine. So this is what you're going to get with the mini arcade Pandora DX. In my opinion, I think it's a pretty fun experience. It has some very positive side, but again, it's flawed in many ways. And I just wanted to show you the full picture that you're knowing what you're going to get with this. If you have any questions, you can always leave it in the comments. Consider subscribing, I have more videos coming up regarding this product. Nevertheless, it will be great to have you here in the Wicked family. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and I will see you in the next video.